So if you clicked on this video, you're thinking about moving, right? I am 54 years old and I've moved 3 times, so 3 different states. Now, I mean 3 different states, but I've moved way more than 3 times. I've just lived in these 3 states, which was New York, New Jersey, and now Houston. My take is each state has its pros and cons, and I'm going to kind of break down my experience of living in each state and how I rank them. So first off, if you like these videos, I'm going to keep posting on my channel. You can hit the bell icon and click the button to subscribe, and that way you'll get notified when I'm dropping more videos and content. This is just the beginning, but I will start branching out as I come up with more things that I've experienced over my 54 plus years in life. So different topics, different things. So New York City, born and raised there, in the Bronx, lived there for most of my teenage life, and then I relocated to upstate New York. So people who've never lived in New York City, New York and New York City are two separate things. New York City is a small section of boroughs. We call it the 5 boroughs. That the biggest concentration of people live there. So when you look at New York as a whole, right? New York as a whole, the majority of people live in these 5 boroughs compared to New York State. New York State's pretty big. I believe New York State is the 13th. You can check me on this. The 13th largest state in the United States, somewhere around there. Maybe a little higher up the ranking too. So there's a difference between living in New York City and living in New York State. New York City is an experience in itself where you do not need a car. There are people who've lived there their entire lives and never needed to drive because the transportation is so good and you can get to anywhere you need to by train, bus, or car. There is no reason to have a car. A car sometimes is an extra liability because the parking is horrible in New York City. They are constantly cleaning the streets because the streets are horrible. So when they clean the streets, there's this alternate side parking thing. So 2 days you can park on this side, 2 days you can park on this side. So you got to keep moving your car. And when you do that at a certain time, there's nowhere to park your car. You're parking blocks away, and then you got to walk all the way to your house. It is just an inconvenience. So that is like the biggest con of living in New York City if you have a vehicle, unless you're financially stable and you're able to live in these areas that have parking garages, or you have a brownstone that has a garage, right? Without that, just take the public transportation, save the car note, and save the car insurance. You're going to save a lot of money if you don't have a vehicle. Now, when you move outside of New York City, it is more like a suburban area. You definitely need a car. The transportation is very sporadic. You just even for Ubers, Uber, Lyft, or cab services are not that great. Um, so getting a vehicle when you live in New York City, New York State itself is a must, right? But when it comes down to it, New York City offers so many things that many other states don't offer, and I could say California is probably comparable, even though I haven't lived there. But knowing what California offers, not on the transportation side, but just the scenery and the weather, I could say for people who live in California, I'm sure they would choose California over New York City if they lived there and experienced both. But since I've never truly been in California, I've been to Vegas, and that's nowhere near like California or in California. it is New York City is just what it is for me, right? You got museums, you got Broadway shows, you have performers on the street. Like if you go in these touristy areas, there's entertainment everywhere. There's a we call it bodegas. There's nothing like that in a lot of these other states, but a bodega is just like a small, I guess, corner store or whatever you might want to call it in your states. And there drinks, snacks, some small food items that you would find in a grocery store. If you ran out, you can get that. They make sandwiches, breakfast sandwiches. It's just a staple in New York City, and there's like one every other block. So bodegas is like the life essence of New York City. It's just part of your childhood. So the options that you have when you step outside in New York at when I say at any time of night, you can find some type of entertainment or trouble, depending on what you're into. But there's always something to do or something to see. You're never bored when you step outside in New York City. So when I look at Jersey, which I moved to Jersey then for about 10 years, Jersey is pretty close to New York City. So if you live on the north end of Jersey, you have access to New York City. It can take anywhere from 45 minutes to 5 minutes to get over to New York City, depending on how far north you are in Jersey. And the train systems in the north side or the transportation is not too bad. It's nowhere near like New York City. I don't think anything compares to that. Maybe Chicago, from what I heard, has a decent transportation set up for in their city. New Jersey is okay, but the further out you go in New Jersey, then you start to need a car because transportation is just it's not going to work for you, especially if your job's somewhere that there is no train or cabs are too expensive to get to. When I was there in Jersey for a while, I guess the biggest draw was gas, right? Gas was super cheap. I don't know what it was down here in Houston and Florida and stuff, but because there are um, oil refineries, or that is a hub, I can't really say oil refineries. It probably is oil refineries there, but Jersey was a big time shipping hub where the oil did come in to those shipping lanes, and it made oil and gas cheaper if you lived in Jersey compared to New York. So a lot of New Yorkers would cross the bridge just to get gas in Jersey because the gas was somewhere like uh, 50 to 80 cent cheaper. Yeah, it was crazy. So that was the biggest draw. The other draw was that the cost of living was a little cheaper. You got more space compared to when you lived in New York City. You paid high prices for very small apartments. The square footage was just horrible. But Jersey gave you a little bit more for your money, and that would be like the biggest draw for people who lived in New York City but didn't want the New York City prices. So you move to Jersey and then you just travel back and forth across the river, right? So then we look at a place like Houston. When I moved to Houston, Houston, you definitely need a vehicle. They do have buses. There are some light rail transportation. Light rail is like the train system here. Jersey had the same thing. It was called a light rail, and it's just a 2 to 5 cars that just ride on top of the track, and it's set up on a road, so you got to kind of watch it when you're driving because you can run over the train tracks. They're actually in the road, so that's what a light rail is. But if you didn't live in downtown Houston or near the colleges, you couldn't really utilize the light rails. So Houston, you need a vehicle. The difference down here is that when you got an apartment, man, the square footage was sometimes double to triple what you would get in New York City or New Jersey, and the prices you pay were way less. So this was one of the reasons I relocated down here, besides job opportunity. But when I came down here and saw to my first apartment that I wound up getting a 2 bedroom. So I've never lived in a 2 bedroom. It's always been 1 bedroom or studio. most of my life. When I had my kids, of course, I had 2 bedroom, but never went above a 2 bedroom. I had 2 girls, so didn't have to split the room. They just shared the room even as they got older. But to have a 2 bedroom and pay less than I did when I had my kids was incredible. And then what came with it? A pool on site, washer and dryer inside the 2 bedroom, 2 bathrooms. So I had a 2 bedroom in New York City and I had 1 bathroom. So everybody shared the same bathroom. I come down here and I got 2 bathrooms, washer and dryer, a pool on site, walk-in closets. It's just like night and day. So you feel like you're rich, right? I'm middle class. I'm not making a ton of money, but the apartments that I'm living in, it's like you gotta be kidding me. This is probably would cost me 4 to 5 grand in New York City to get the same level of amenities that I do in Houston. But what's the downside? Well, you got to drive everywhere. There is nobody outside. When I say there's nobody outside in Houston, it is so boring here. If you want to see people, and I'm an introvert, right? But when I'm tired of being inside, I want to be an extrovert, so I want to be outside around a lot of people. If you want to be around a lot of people, you have to go to a mall, a restaurant. You got to go to like Top Golf. Like you literally have to Google places that give some type of activity because there is nothing to do here because of the heat. When I say the heat can be anywhere, okay, now I've been here 4 years, right? So the heat can go anywhere from a decent 85 to about 110 degrees. And from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., nobody's outside. And yeah, if you don't have friends when you first move down here and really lock in with some people that you can hang with and go find things to do, and you don't have hobbies either, you will go crazy. So that is one of the cons of not knowing anybody when you move to Houston and not making friends, besides your coworkers or whatever the situation might be. Not going to like a gym and playing ball or getting into some sport because there is nothing to do here. Yes, they have events. Again, it's different from growing up in New York City where New York City had Broadway shows. You can go to a museum. There was just performances outside in Times Square. You can go sit in the park, and the weather was decent. Here you have some of that. There's the rodeo. There's certain events that you can locate to go to depending on what you're into. But they're very few and far between from, it's like you got to plan it basically. Yeah, you got to plan it. So you got to look at it, plan it, find what day it's on, these events, because there is a good amount. Find what you're into, and then go get the tickets and go. Where in New York City, you can just kind of step outside and go, I'm going to go over here for today. Walk there, take the train, and just go see something new. So when it comes down to me ranking the 3 states, if you're thinking about moving, New York City will still be number 1, even though the living situation and the cost to live in New York City is horrible, but the experience is something you just cannot understand. It is the best experience ever. New Jersey, I'm going to put Houston second just because of which the value you get for your money when you get down here. The space, just the peace of mind if you're a man that's single and up there in age and you're not as active, you get a peace of mind that is unmatched. It's so relaxing here. Then I'll put Jersey last because Jersey does give you access to get into New York City depending on where you live in Jersey, and they have decent beaches. There are some places if you have a car that you can drive in Jersey and it's nice to visit, but I'm still going to rank New York City first, Houston second, and Jersey third. So let me know what y'all think. Comment down below of where you've lived. And yeah, let's see where's the best state for people who are ready to relocate to live.